Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my team selector and preview ahead of tomorrow night's game against Atletico Madrid at Stamford Bridge in the Champions League. It's the big second leg of the last 16 tie. Chelsea of course winning the first leg 1-0 thanks to a wonderful Olivier Giroud bicycle kick, but it's a massive game. It's Chelsea's biggest game of the season by some distance. I think in terms of European competition and its significance, it's one of the biggest games we've had in Europe for quite a while. I mean, of course, we can look at the Europa League final against Arsenal in 2019. But in terms of the Champions League, we've been in last 16 ties, but recently, it's especially last season, it's a dead rubber, basically, the second leg. It's Chelsea's best opportunity to progress to the last day for a long time. Chelsea have the away goal from the first leg. They don't have to chase the game, but I think it's a massive test. This isn't done. I don't think anyone should be suggesting that. Given the nature of the Champions League, crazy things do happen in the Champions League pretty frequently, and as well the type of opposition. As I stressed in the first leg, Atletico Madrid, the intelligence of this team in this competition, the experience they have of getting through tough two-legged ties. I think psychologically as well, there's a lot that Chelsea have to get right tomorrow in terms of the way we approach this game, because it always is that fine balancing act between, especially when you've got a lead from the first leg, of protecting that lead, knowing you don't have to really chase a goal, but also not being too passive in the game. I think that's something that other teams in the Champions League, like Borussia Dortmund last week, really struggled with. And I'm interested to see how Chelsea, in this situation with a lot of players who haven't been in a massive Champions League tie, I think, of this nature for Chelsea in the first team squad, how they deal with it as well. So it's going to be a massive night, I think a very tense night, but if Chelsea get through, it'd be a massive result for Thomas Tuchel and for Chelsea FC. But before we get into any of that good stuff, team news, my lineup, looking at Atletico, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. So team news, the injury front basically the same as the other day. Thiago Silva, Tammy Abraham still out. Tuchel saying that both players, especially Thiago Silva, likely not going to be ready for the game at the weekend against Sheffield United in the FA Cup quarter-final, where Tuchel could have rotated, but also after the international break, it seems like that game against West Brom in the Premier League will be the time when Tammy and Thiago can return. Whether they return to the first team, we're going to have to wait and see. But other than that, suspension, two big players out tomorrow night, Mason Mount and Jorginho. Two big players for Thomas Tuchel on the goal-scoring front as well. Both of these players have scored a couple goals for Thomas Tuchel from a penalty spot for Jorginho, also a penalty spot for Mason Mount. Mason Mount scoring probably the biggest goal so far for Thomas Tuchel away from home against Liverpool at Anfield. What an amazing goal that was. And Mason, especially, how essential he is to the energy within this team. His work rate, his consistency of performance, his spatial awareness, his tactical intelligence, because defensively, I think it's very important Chelsea get it right, but offensively too, you feel Mason's such a great player connecting, and especially when Chelsea try and counter, he's such an energetic player too. So Mason has been so big for Chelsea this year. He's been Chelsea's player of the year. I think the only one that can rival him currently is maybe Edouard Mendy and also Thiago Silva, but Mason should be player of the season. It's going to be a massive miss tomorrow. Jorginho too, in a game where Chelsea are probably going to have more of the ball. We saw this in the first game. Jorginho, when at his best, can really dictate play, hold possession, really keep things sticking over, which is important for Chelsea in that double six. So he won't be available either. I think it makes it pretty obvious the two players who will be playing in the double six. Atletico have a lot of history of big second leg ties away from home and being victorious in this competition. I think that intelligence, that streetwise nature of this team is the biggest threat, other than the quality they have within the first team. Atletico Madrid's form recently has been pretty patchy, it has to be said. Their lead at the top of La Liga has been limited to about 3 points now between them and Real Madrid. Their form has been patchy, only winning 2 of their last 5 games. Their last defeat came against Chelsea in the first leg. But you still look at the talent of Luis Suarez and Joao Felix, who Chelsea kept pretty quiet in the first leg. The only difference this time is I do expect that Joao Felix, especially Joao Felix, I think will be pressing up the pitch a lot higher. And Atletico Madrid on the injury front do have Trippier, Carrasco and Jimenez back. 3 big players that do change, as Thomas Tuchel referenced in his press conference, sort of the nature of their team. They can be a little bit more offensive, and in this game they're going to have to be offensive at some point, because given the nature of the tie, if Chelsea is still leading, especially 60 minutes in, imagine it's still level, 0-0, they're going to have to commit more men forward, and that's going to cause more issues for our defensive line, which has been immaculate, but it's going to be one of their biggest tests so far if Atletico are on their game on the night. So it's going to be massive for Chelsea to get their team right. And I want to go into my starting 11 it's difficult. I think on the defensive front, I think it's pretty obvious. That's where the most stability has come and where the biggest improvement has come under Thomas Tuchel so far. So I think it's pretty obvious. I'm going to give you two starting lineups. In my first predicted lineup here, it's the 3-4-2-1. Both my formations are the 3-4-2-1. I don't think Thomas Tuchel is going to change that formation for tomorrow night. I'd be pretty stunned if he does. So Dave Christensen, Rudiger, right wing back Reece James, Kante, Kovacic. I think the obvious double six here, unless he pulls a surprise. I don't think Billy Gilmour will be coming in here, but maybe he shifts someone. I don't know who else could play in a double six based on what we've seen so far. I think it will be Kante and Mateo Kovacic in that key role. The two of them, I think, hopefully will have the right blend of mobility, the defensive awareness, I think the ability to get back. I do wonder offensively if both of these players with a bit more energy and as well pace rather than Jorginho can offer you, can we be a little bit more expressive in the final third? Can we get players further forward? But as I say, it's that dynamic as well of not overcommitting when you don't need to in this leg, and how deadly the Champions League can be when you make mistakes, especially in that midfield area. But Kante performing wonderfully recently, and Mateo Kovacic has been pretty strong for Tuchel as well. Marcos Alonso coming in at left wing back. I do think that Marcos Alonso could be brought back in here. He played in the first leg. Maybe he's looking for that height, that physicality. It's been pretty much swapping between Marcos Alonso and Ben Chilwell given the game and the opponent. So I think Alonso could come back in here. And then we look at the front three, and I think the front three, the attacking part of the pitch, is the most difficult to predict at the moment because no one can really nail down what the best attack is. I think there are certain players who've had really good individual performances, but as a collective unit, it's been very difficult to nail down what the best three is. So with this three, I've sort of gone with, and I think if you match up Marcos Alonso in this as well on the left, the three that started against Everton and worked really well, looked really fluid. So you push Timo Werner over to the right, but you have Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left who performed so well. He hasn't performed much there for Chelsea. He hasn't started on the left that much for Chelsea in his young career, and I think that's an area that he could be very devastating in, especially creatively. So I'd like to see him on the left again if he does start tomorrow. Kai Havertz as that false nine, and the way Marcos Alonso and Callum Hudson-Odoi, the way they rotated on that left, really caused issues for Everton. A little bit different, of course, for the level of team that Atletico Madrid are with their defence and their defensive setup, but still, Callum Hudson-Odoi, if he does start, it's probably the biggest night in his Chelsea career so far. Can he take it? And as I say, Kai Havertz as that false nine, or just number 9 once again. I think, we call him false 9 just based on the fact he does move around a lot, his positioning and the amount of touches he gets across the pitch, but especially on Saturday, he was a lot more a natural number 9 rather than a false 9 that did drop back. But I think in this game, the space is going to be limited as it was for Olivier Giroud in the first game. The second starting 11, once again, Mendy, Dave Christensen, Rudiger, Reece James at right wing back. I just think Reece James defensively has been so strong at putting in the performances against Liverpool, Everton. I think the threat of Thomas Lemar, who I do think will be pressing up a lot more. Callum worked well against that in the first leg, but I just think Reece James has earned this position. Kante, Kovacic, of course, still the double six, but Ben Chilwell, who I think is better defensively than Marcos Alonso. I still prefer Ben Chilwell there because I do think we're going to be coming up against a lot more attacking from Atletico, and I think Chilwell is much more suited to that game, as has been shown when he's played against Liverpool, played against Man United, played against Leeds. He's dealt with that well. So I think Ben Chilwell, you are maybe losing the attacking threat of Marcos Alonso in the box, but I think this is a game where Chelsea have to be spot on defensively, so I think Ben Chilwell is my preferred option in this particular game. But going into that front three, Kai still in the team. Rather than as a number 9, he goes back to that roaming 10 on the right side, Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left, and Olivier Giroud, who scored the wonder goal in the first leg, starting again. I can see why Giroud once again would start this game, given the fact he probably has confidence from scoring last time against Atletico, given the fact it is going to be a physical game. You do want a physical striker to maybe hold up the ball. You think about linking up play for someone like Kai Havertz and Callum Hudson-Odoi. Havertz and Cho have already shown a good connection over the season, and I also think similarly Callum Hudson-Odoi and Olivier Giroud have shown good connection in the past as well. The crossing ability of Callum, especially on the left rather than the right, where he's played most of his football for Chelsea. I think that would be quite interesting. Either of these three could really work for Chelsea. I think for Thomas Tuchel, it's still that attacking awkwardness. This is going to be a really tight game. Chelsea, I don't think, are going to be scoring bundles of goals. I don't think the opportunity will be there unless something crazy happens within the game. I think that overall it's going to be a very tense, cagey game, and I think it could go 1-0 either way. I think that's the way it will probably turn out, and Chelsea, of course, do have that away goal, do have that advantage. They know that they can, of course, draw the game 0-0. Also, it end up as a score draw, 2-1, 1-2-2. We get through to the next round. So hopefully Chelsea can do it. Very interested to hear your starting 11 in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this preview. Massive game. I have to tell you, whilst I've been doing this channel, especially since I returned in 2019, I think tomorrow will be the biggest win if Chelsea can get it since I've been making videos on the channel again. So hopefully Chelsea can get the job done. It's a massive game. Can Chelsea rise to the occasion, get the job done and get into the last eight of the Champions League once again for the first time in 7 years? Thank you once again for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll see you again.